Okay, I hope my mic is working. I believe so. Okay. I'm seeing the audio levels coming through. I just didn't do a pre-test this time. But anyway, so when I was doing, I want to say when I was at work today, but like I drive delivery, so at work is not really like necessarily one specific place. But anyway, during my work day, I was at a gas station at one point, and on the TV, I saw, I think there might have been a few words in the lower third chyron, but I think at least two words I saw there. Maybe there was more than two words, but anyway, the main words I think I remember seeing was Trudeau Resigns. So it was kind of like, I don't know what face I made. I think my eyebrows probably raised because it's like, dude, it actually happened. Because this is like a thing. I was talking with somebody else in town a little bit ago, and I asked them, do you think that Trudeau's actually going to resign? And or I said something like that, and he was kind of not buying it because he thought, like, to summarize his viewpoint, he was basically thinking, like, if he's on the way out anyway, why would he stop now, or why wouldn't he ride it out till the very end? And that's actually like a fairly reasonable perspective to take, that if somebody's in a position like that, why would they end it before they're being forced out, or not being forced out, but yeah, I guess if you consider like getting voted out at the end of a term, or however that system works. But yeah, so the fact that he chose to step down, it's kind of like, is it possibly an attempt to try to retire with some level of honor, given that stepping down when you're in this kind of level of reputation might be considered slightly better than riding it out to the very end, in which case you're voted out or forced out or whatever you want to call it. But then at the same time, is potentially the reason why he resigned, that he didn't want to go through that display of being voted out. Because does he want to go down as never losing? I don't know if he's ever lost an election. I'm not sure. But again, in the Canadian system, I think it's a bit more convoluted. Or with first past the post, like, I think I again, like, I'm Canadian and I don't even really know enough about how our system works, because we have this thing called minority government, which I think means that you could have not over half the country vote for you, but as long as you have like 34% or something, I don't even know. Like, okay, I'm just gonna define it because I'm just kind of speaking out of my ears right now. Define minority government in Canada. Real quick. In Canada, a minority government is formed when no single political party wins a majority of the seats in the House of Commons. This means the party with the most seats must rely on the support of other parties or independent members to pass legislation and maintain power. Are the seats in the House determined by what percentage of the votes they get, or is it how many districts they win in? Like, I know more about how the electoral college system works in the U.S. than how our own Canadian election system works, which is kind of sad, maybe. But anyway, one of the things I think I've said before, something like, because somebody said to me, like, we talk all the time about U.S. politics, but we never talk about Canadian politics, or they said something like that. And I said something like, it's because we never do anything, and whenever we do, it just takes away more of our freedom, or something like that, or makes things worse. I said something like that. Maybe I said both those things. But it's like, yeah, Canada doesn't really do anything that's super noteworthy. So when we do, it just seems like it's bad, So it's like, anyway. Okay, so the other AI here said a minority government in Canada occurs when a political party wins the most seats in the House of Commons but does not achieve an absolute majority more than half of the total seats. This situation. Okay, so how does a political party in Canada win seats? Because the mouthing of the words totally makes this sounds better. Okay. In Canada, a political party wins seats in the House of Commons through the electoral process known as Single member plurality, also referred to as first past the post. Okay, so I have heard first past the post, but never heard this. Anyway, here's how it works. Okay, I'm going to learn how my own election system works now, apparently. Elections. Political parties nominate candidates to run in each of Canada's 338 electoral districts, also known as ridings. Any number of candidates can run for election in a riding, but each candidate can run in only one riding. Voting. On election day, voters in each riding cast their ballots for the candidate they prefer. The candidate with the highest number of votes in each riding wins the seat and becomes the Member of Parliament, MP, for that area, regardless of whether they achieve more than 50% of the votes. So that part, my brain is a little mush right now, so when I'm reading this, I feel like this isn't sinking in. Seat allocation. The number of seats a party wins is determined by the number of ridings its candidates win. Okay, that makes sense. The party with the most seats typically forms... Like, it makes sense in the sense that you begin to understand how it all kind of culminates together to, maybe you could say, contribute to the total winnings of a party. The party with the most seats typically forms the government, as they are most likely to hold the confidence of the House, meaning they can maintain the support of a majority of MPs. So far this actually sounds pretty good. Like, I thought it was more confusing than this. This actually kind of... It's weird because it's like, in a way, it makes sense, but at the same time, like, if you can get in with, like, not over half the votes, then, like, there's something that's kind of like, if, like, the most of the country is against you, but you're still in there, that's kind of crazy. I'm not sure if what I just said is correct, but it might be. Recognition. To be recognized as a party in the House of Commons and receive certain benefits, a party must have at least 12 members in the House of Commons. Okay, to be recognized as a party. Okay, so you have to win at least 12 to, like, prove your stuff. Projections. Seat projections are often calculated by adjusting the results of the last election based on current polling data. This takes into account how each party's support has shifted in different regions and other local factors. Okay, so the only thing that is determined by the number of ridings is candidates win. This is the only part that I wasn't sure on. So voting on election day, voters in each riding cast their ballots for the candidate they prefer. The candidate with the highest number of votes in each riding wins the seat and becomes a Member of Parliament, MP, for that area, regardless of whether they received more than 50% of the votes. That's the only part that I don't understand. Regardless of whether they received more than 50% of the votes. So does that mean you need just at least 50%? Like, it only matters who gets to 50? Well, technically, I would think it would matter who gets to 51, because if it's a tie, then what happens? But I don't know. Anyway, so all that stuff out the way. Is that even helpful for me to go over that? Maybe it's helpful for me. Anyway, so we got the Twitter here, but I'm going to really quickly pull up... Where is it? So while all that is happening in Canada, right? So real quick, I'll go to something I saw this morning, because I saw that on the TV. Then I put out a tweet about did Trudeau just resign? Just because I think I was kind of just being transparent here. I think I was kind of trying to get, like, some comments or something to boost my post or whatever, to get the algorithm going on the post, maybe, or to get feedback on my post, which would then maybe get my Twitter or my X handle, whatever you want to call it, out there better, like try to grow my account or whatever, full transparency. But then I took it down because then I found out the answer to that question, and I just thought I should take it down, I guess, because it was just kind of maybe a bit of a, was it a dumb post, because I already saw something on the TV that made me think, like, this is probably what is happening. Because, you know, sometimes you might see something on the TV and you might be like, is that really what's happening? Or is that just, like, speculation? But from what I remember, I think it said Trudeau resigned as member of, or as prime minister, something like that on CTV News on the TV in a gas station. Anyway, so I took the tweet down. Long story short, and then I saw this like when I went to like I think I went to the search tab on my phone or something like that to see the trending, and after clicking or whatever, navigating, I eventually went back to I think it was suggested in the For You section at the in the top of the feed was Trudeau resigning. Then when I clicked on that, one of the first ones, if not the first one I saw, was Russell Brand, and he's like, "It happened. Justin Trudeau has resigned." So if Russell Brand's saying it, you know what I mean, I take that probably fairly seriously in the sense that I like Russell Brand. I have probably a pretty decent amount of trust for him. More trust now that he seems to be born again. But anyway, we're going to listen to this little clip.
Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Over the holidays...
Okay, so that is that. And I am going to... when even Elon responds, wow. So I'm going to just kind of keep it respectful here, because I might have my own suspicions and viewpoints on Trudeau. I think that I could just speak more objectively on what I think about it, but I'm going to just keep it fairly polite. Where I have not followed, I'll be transparent again, I have not followed any of his policy very closely, in the sense that I don't believe I've really read up on much Canadian bills at all lately. I just kind of hear, probably what most people hear is where the creators you like on YouTube make videos reporting about the bill, right? Or you hear some other way, whether through social media, whether Twitter, whatever, or otherwise, about a given piece of Canadian legislation or bill or whatever. Just if I'm to go off the vibe that I'm feeling or the hunch that I have or whatever, and again, you can, feel free to say that I'm wrong, but I think it's at least fair to say that at some point, whether it be from earlier on or from later on, but at some point I think most Canadians, at the very least, or at least a good amount of Canadians, would probably say that Trudeau has caused a net negative effect on Canada. And you could even just go from it from this perspective. If you're a Canadian, and if you're old enough to remember the difference, is your life better on average now than 9 years ago, or whenever he got elected? And I think he's been in I think he's been in Parliament for 9 years. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's either 9 years or around 9 years, if that's accurate. Okay. Is your life better off now or before all this happened, right? Especially during COVID. Now, to be fair, let's hold everybody accountable, right? We should, in the sense that, Doug Ford, Conservative MP, as far as I understand, during that time, during COVID, all the stuff that he did might not have been so great on average either, right? So just because you have a little, whatever our symbol is for Conservative, whether it's a C or whatever it is, just because you're part of the Conservative Party doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing all great stuff, right? Same if you're part of the Liberal Party, right? Or whatever party, whether it's NDP, whatever. During COVID, at least during the early part of it, I think I became a pretty big fan of the PPC. So that is the People's Party of Canada. Where is he at now? Max Bernier. Is it really gonna make it this hard? Bernier. There we go. So, I believe that Maxime Bernier is So chef do, is that chief? What's this in English? Okay. Chef du translates to head of or chief of in English. Just use the cider AI there. You can't really see it because it's kind of like cut off on the side of the screen. But anyway, it's pretty nifty little AI. That's whenever I highlight stuff, I'll bring that, right? So, cider fusion. Anyway, or that's the AI model in cider AI. Anyway, I'm rabbit trailing again. So anyway, I was pretty pro PPC during at least a portion of the COVID times, and I think apparently they even had such an effect that at least in one riding, maybe more. I'm saying maybe more. I don't know if it affected more than one riding, but I think in a nearby area it cost a Conservative their seat as a result of the influence of this party. So it's we'll just go to what Max's response here is, or what Max's big news today in Ottawa. Justin Trudeau finally announced that he will soon leave politics. So anyway, we'll just see what Max has to say.
Big news today in Ottawa, the resignation of Justin Trudeau. That's a good news, but that's not the beginning of a new era in Ottawa. We have globalist establishment politicians in Ottawa. The Conservatives, Liberals, RNDP or Bloc Québécois and Green, they are not there to fight for you. Just remember what they did to you during the COVID hysteria.
There you go.
Yes, Justin Trudeau was able to impose draconian authoritarian measures on us with the support of the Conservative and Pierre Poilievre. We must remember that. The People's Party is there to fight for you. And if you look at the last 9 years, what Justin Trudeau did, he destroyed our country. Yes, with mass immigration, woke policies, and the radical gender ideology, and all these deficits, and now we are paying for that with the inflation tax. That's because of Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. It won't change tomorrow. It will take time, and we are there to offer you the real alternative. If you believe in individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness, we are there. We are ready to put our country first. Yes, we will withdraw from the Paris Accord. We won't give any money to all these UN organizations because they're socialist and globalist, and they are not fighting for us as Canadians. We will end mass immigration and start mass deportation. We will have a moratorium on immigration. So if you are ready to regain our country, support the People's Party of Canada. You can go on our website and read our policies at peoplespartyofcanada.ca. So stay strong and free. I count on you, and you can count on us. Thank you.
I thought he was going to say, and you could count on me. That would be kind of corny, but funny. But anyway, I like Max. I know he might be seen as a little haywire, but regardless,
Big news today.
maybe that is what we need. Because here's the thing. Okay, so real quick, going to full screen it while I try to find or look for that other post I saw from a while ago. So essentially, it's like when Poilievre first came out, I think everybody was like, "Oh yes, this is the guy." We can look to this guy to try to fix things or whatever. Just like, I think after all this stuff with Trudeau, okay, here we go. I found the post, so I'll get to that in a second. But it's like, I think that after, COVID and everything and stuff like that, because I didn't follow the Conservative Party very much during COVID. I just kind of followed just the news that was happening in Canada during COVID, like, all the lockdown stuff and this, that, and the other. The time when I, for doing nothing at all, but because I didn't do certain things, I was, not allowed to go to restaurants for a period of time, wasn't allowed to I think I wasn't allowed to fly or take a train in my own country. Not allowed to go to restaurants in my own country, etc. So like, I followed stuff like that, and I followed a lot of stuff going on in the U.S. obviously as well. Like probably more stuff going on. Like I probably followed more stuff going on in the U.S. than in my own country. But regardless, and I mean like stuff was kind of popping off in the world to different degrees. Like you could argue still is or always is. But during that time, I think it was Aaron O'Toole who was the leader of the Conservative Party. And initially, when I saw one of his ads, I kind of liked the guy, and then I kind of heard, I think, a couple things from, I don't know if it was from people I know or if it was from some people on YouTube. It's probably people on YouTube where they were talking about him kind of in not such a great way. It might have been on Rebel News, actually. I'm not sure. I don't know where it was said for certain, but some stuff kind of got brought up about how like kind of causing some wariness or hesitation about him, right? I just saw like one or two ads from him. It was like, all right, But then it's like, I don't know what happened there, but I assume, I could be wrong, I assume at some point he stepped down. I don't know if he was stepped down or if he was ousted or however that works, but Aaron O'Toole doesn't seem to be on the scene anymore to my knowledge, and at some point Polyev took over, I believe, either during COVID or just as it was starting to phase out. I'm not exactly sure, because Maxime Bernier was there in like the heat of it. Like he was there on the ground with the truckers. He was, I think, one of the two politicians that was actually on the ground with the truckers in Ottawa, like in the crowd with them, right? I think that Maxime Bernier gave a speech, and I think somebody from, I think, the Blue Party was there and gave a little talk or a speech or something, or was at least there. I can't remember all these details specifically, probably. But regardless, it's like those kinds of people are the kinds of people that I think that people are more willing to listen to now, especially maybe during COVID if they were just kind of going insane with how much our lives were being changed. And even like probably after the fact for anybody that doesn't have that, kind of short-term memory loss, because it's kind of wild how quickly everybody kind of just forgot about how wild things got. And so here's the thing that I do want to say, is that even if, like, that's not a great freeze frame. Is there a good freeze frame? Maybe. Okay. Even if, like, because I only briefly looked at the website here. Let's see. Go to People's Party, read our platform. Okay, so I think I probably went to this during COVID. And I don't know, the site might have been different. Okay, ending discrimination, restoring equal rights for all. You see, like, it's stuff that if you just, like, because at first when I saw this, I think I got kind of nervous. Imposing a moratorium and deporting illegals. Okay, yeah, because when he said deporting, I was like, I didn't think that we had an issue to the same levels of the states where we would require a mass deportation, but we probably have had illegal immigration. I just don't know what the numbers are in Canada. I know roughly the numbers in the U.S. It's either 10 million or maybe it's 17 million, or it's a lot. Whatever it is, it's a lot. Whereas here, I don't know what it is. I think I might have heard 1 million, but I'm not exactly sure. So regardless, I could even be wrong about the 1 million number. If we are having illegal immigration, then okay, yes, this would make sense. Now, moratorium, I'm not sure what moratorium means. Can I highlight this? Let's get into, anyway. Issue, okay. Gender ideology, protecting women and children from harm. Okay, like, when you read these, it's like this should be obvious. The fact that they even need to state it, like, you could make an argument whether they need to state it or not, but like, you could also maybe say that they're capitalizing on how slanted everything is in modern society, that they're just simply stating these like quite common sense normal things, right? But the fact that you could argue that it would even be considered capitalizing or something that you would have to do to put up basic stuff like this on your website as a platform just kind of shows maybe how ridiculous everything is, right? So anyway, Canadian identity, ending official multiculturalism, and preserving Canadian values and culture. This, I think, has become a bigger thing to me now than maybe ever, because I think it's just become more clear over time how much it's just kind of like, what does it mean to be Canadian anymore? And it's just kind of this, like, we're polite, we say and we I guess we apologize a lot or something, like that's the stereotype, and like we got hockey and like we drink beer and we have maple syrup or something. Like it's just like you could argue just a bunch of these little like trinkets and little stereotype things. But in terms of like a Canadian identity, it's like we were like once like a British colony or something or whatever we were, and then we got independence, and then like now we're here, I guess. Like it's like, to what degree does somebody actually have like a Canadian identity that they really are in touch with or know what it means or feel what it means beyond like a shared love of hockey as a national sport? You know, like it's like being Canadian, what does that mean, like beyond like what our flag looks like? Like is it just kind of this wishy-washy thing where it's like we're kind of like Americans but maybe nicer, and we live in more snow and cold, like, you know what I mean? Like it's like it's I don't know that it has anything that really stands out beyond just being like some weird kind of default nice country or something like that, where yeah, we're nice or whatever, or like everybody likes us or something, which just because like everybody liking you is not even necessarily a good thing. There's some people that you maybe shouldn't want to like you. So anyway, foreign policy focusing on the security and prosperity of Canadians, rejecting climate alarmism and focusing on concrete improvements. You see, like all this stuff when you just read the taglines sounds like pretty legit. Public finance, balancing the budget in a first mandate, then cutting taxes, cooling down an overheated market. Okay. If the video posted by Moon, say what you will about Moon, but if the video posted by him is correct about the Canadian economy, I think it was posted by Moon. Let me just look it up here. If he's correct, then our economy is like in really, 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 really bad shape, because apparently our Canadian economy is mainly propped up by the housing market. And our housing market, I don't know if that is too great right now. So I don't remember where it is. Is it Canada? I don't know if it's Canada. Oh no, it wasn't Moon. It was a different video. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it, but it's like essentially I think it's like a 15-minute video time about like Canada's economy. Is it this one? I don't know if it's this one. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. It might be this one by Jack Chappell. How Canada's economy became the most pathetic in the world, the collapse of a nation. There's one video somewhere. I think it's this one because it shows that I watched it, but I could be wrong. There's this one video that talks about how our economy is apparently propped up by the housing market. So if the housing market goes under, then like the whole economy goes under. As far as I understand, our housing market, I don't think is very great right now. So again, I could be wrong, but you know what I mean? Like, is it good or is it not? Like, somebody who knows more about this, feel free to correct me on this or whatever. But it's like, so yeah, cooling down an overheated market. If they can say that it's an overheated market, then there might be merit to what I'm saying about it. So anyway, self-defense, allowing victims of violent crime to defend themselves. Dude, okay, as a Canadian, like, this is one of the main things where it's like, and I didn't even mean for this to become like a PPC advertisement, but it's just like, this is kind of maybe where we should shift the conversation right now, because it's like, now that Trudeau is resigning, what does that mean? Where do we go from here? What happens with leadership? Like, do we have an election right now, or does the House vote on somebody? I don't really know. I don't know how it works. Maybe they've already said it. I just don't know what it is. So, self-defense. So in Canada, there is, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be a bit hazy on the legal stuff here, but as far as I understand, I might be oversimplifying it, but as far as I understand, there is something called reasonable force in Canada. So essentially, if you are attacked by somebody, I think you are expected to defend yourself in such a way that would be classified as reasonable force. This is just how I heard a guy at a military surplus store explain it. So this could be wrong, and I think even my police friend corrected me a bit on this, or added to it. Like, he didn't completely say that I was wrong, but he just kind of added to it a bit. So I'll tell you what I remember him saying after I said this, just for context maybe. But essentially it's like, reasonable force. So if somebody attacks you with their fists, you're like expected to respond with the same level of force. So if you like use a gun, that would be considered unreasonable force, I think, or whatever the term is. Whereas if you responded with your fists, that would be considered reasonable force, I think. And the same thing for, the guy at the surplus store even said that if you know a martial art, that could be considered unreasonable force. So say somebody comes at you with their fists, you respond with your martial art, aikido, whatever the heck it is, and you beat them up or whatever. Could that be considered unreasonable force based on what the Army surplus store guy said? Which, who knows if he's an expert on Canadian law or not. Take it for what you will. He could be wrong, I could be wrong. Anyway, he made it sound like that would be unreasonable force. So, and then what my police buddy said is that I think it might be that if, I don't remember if this is exactly what he said or how he put it or what context he was responding to, but I think he might have said something like, if, say, somebody attacks you, you do shoot, and if you were to shoot them, then you'd have to go to court to like prove your innocence. And he made it sound like there would be quite a good chance, if not like a guarantee, that you would not go to jail because no jury's going to convict you of that. I don't know if he said it with that level of affirmative, decisiveness of being like, there's no, like, I don't know if he said there's no way a jury would convict you, or if he just said it's very unlikely that a jury would convict you of ill doing and having to go to jail or whatever as a result. Like, but even if he did say that it's very unlikely, I'm still kind of like suspicious of the whole thing, because if they see you as like a political case, right? So if say somebody's breaking into your house and you shoot somebody, or you shoot the guy that's breaking into your house or whatever, I would still be nervous or hesitant about the concept if somebody or I or whatever had to go to court over this, because it's like, it feels like today is probably ripe for a political style kind of prosecution, of where just because a gun was involved, do you get like thrown under the bus because it becomes some political court case or something? Or they try to make you seem like some sort of, racist or whatever because you shot somebody who was breaking into your house, or whatever, like whatever they try to spin it as, right? So anyway, this self-defense stuff is like nice to see, After 8 years I don't know if it's 9 then, of Trudeau government, Canada has become a dramatically more dangerous place after declining for decades. Crime is again on the rise, and Canadians don't feel safe anymore walking down the street at night in many cities, or even in their hometown, or even in their own homes. I thought it said even in their own towns, because even my little town, I think, has become a little bit less safe. We actually had like a stabbing a little bit ago, and it was like, it's kind of wild, because like stuff like that hasn't happened probably in a while. So anyway, like, it's not like common that crime like that, or just bad crime beyond maybe petty theft, happens in town, but it's like still like, anyway. One obvious way to deter crime is to make anyway, so I'm not going to read through all the stuff, but the platform's here. You could read it. Like, so far it's just like, kind of common sense stuff. Healthcare, giving provinces incentives to deal with wait times and rising costs. That would be an interesting one, because it seems like that's like one of the main ones for people is healthcare. So whether it's like the amount of doctors or nurses or funding for healthcare to be able to have the health services, economy, encouraging investment and productivity growth. Okay, this is also a big one, because that video, whichever YouTube video it was, whoever uploaded it, it also, I think it made it sound, if it's accurate in its details, it made it sound like we were losing like a lot of money in investment. Like a lot of money was just leaving this country going to the US, and apparently in Canada, if that video was correct, we have like a lot of companies that just like make money and just hold it, like they just sit on it, or just keep it in their savings. Like they don't actually, like, if I'm remembering correctly, the guy was making the case for saying that a lot of the companies in Canada, or we have a higher percentage of companies that just kind of don't recirculate that money, but they just kind of take it and hold it or whatever. Anyway, so economy, yes, please. Things are getting expensive all the time. Like, what was it? It was kind of wild. Like, during one of my work days, brought like a $5 bill in with me, because I thought that'll be enough for a bag of chips. And I think that a large Ruffles bag of chips, Ruffles is a type of chips we have here in Canada. I don't know if they have that in the U.S. Maybe they do. But anyway, it was like a bag of all-dress Ruffles chips, I think. I think it cost with tax like $6.30, or it was like 5 something or 6 something, I think, for like a bag of chips. Like even just like a bag of those chocolate covered, like those fudge covered pretzels. It's like a bag that's like this, right? So it's like this by like that. Like it's not like a massive bag. It's just like that by like that. Something like that. Really good chocolate covered pretzels. And it costs like $6.20 or something like that. So yeah, things are getting more expensive. Probably, I don't know about everywhere, but it's like U.S. seems to be having a semi-similar problem. Veterans standing behind the men and women who sacrifice for our country. You see, like, and then there's more. Like, all of this is like, the fact that it's even like, does it even need to be said like this? If it does, it's like, it's kind of just shows how kind of crazy everything is. Like, this is just kind of common sense. Okay, pipelines allowing our oil and gas industry to grow. Yes, because if, like, I think I heard something or read something a while ago, again, I could be wrong. With everything I say, assume that I could be wrong. Like, that I think that they weren't giving exploration permits to Quebec or something, and then I hear people talk about it. From what I hear, it sounds like Alberta's kind of given a hard time. But I don't know if that's true, but it just seems like, just based on our green policy in Canada, it seems like oil's not really treated very well. So yeah, like we got probably a lot of resources in Canada that we could use well and actually use in the process while we try to find other better solutions. Firearms, respecting legitimate firearm owners and targeting criminals. Again, obvious stuff. Equalization, fairness for all provinces. I'm not as sure what that means, but if that has anything to do with tax code, that would be interesting. Freedom of expression, protecting Canadians from censorship and discrimination. Good. Indigenous issues. New relationship based on mutual respect. Like this really just comes down to people just need to forgive each other and move forward together. Like, we're all Canadians now. Let's drop all of the woes of the past. It's not that we have to forget about it or that you can't teach it. Teach history. But, like, we need to move forward and not act like it's the same thing as it always was, because it's not the same as it was anymore. Yes, there could still be like people that have like scars from the past and that affects them now, but how it's harped on, it's not really like, it feels like everything is kind of like a sort of a browbeating of the white man, and it's like, we need to like love one another and move forward. And I like what we're doing right now ain't really it. Like, it just like, this is not a solution right now that I like. It's like, it should just be like, probably, and the people probably really wouldn't like this, but it's like, let's maybe like end any what's the word, like any race specific government plans, in terms of like no specific privileges for like Indigenous or non-Indigenous or whatever. It's like, how about let's just all be Canadian and move forward as Canadians. And then people would say, well, what about my heritage? Is like, you could still keep your heritage. And then like, you can make an argument for like, okay, they still get like their fishing and hunting rights and stuff. Just anything that basically doesn't require like government money to be sent out just because they're a specific identity. You know what I mean? Like, if you just simply make it so like they don't have to like get a hunting license, okay, but like, let's not, like, if we are giving out money just based on people's specific identity, if that is happening, because again, I don't have the facts in front of me, so I could be wrong about all this, but if that is happening, we should not just give out money just based on an identity thing. It's like we need to just get to that point where it's like the dryer just finished. We need to get to that point. That was what the beep was. We need to get to the point where it's just like we are done with like this two people's divide. Let's just all be Canadian and like move forward. Anyway, I'm saying like the same thing over and over again. We need to move forward. And like right now the strategy just don't really feel that great. Like this isn't really like a complicated thing. Or I don't know that it should be a complicated thing. It's like let's just move forward. Supply management, making dairy, poultry and eggs more affordable. Yes. Enough said. Internal trade. Getting rid of interprovincial trade barriers. So if that has anything to do with like the taxes for each province, like why can't we like? First of all, we can make an argument like why not let's just get rid of like the GST, HST altogether, or at the least make it the same for every province, because the tax code it's like it will be anywhere from I think 5 to 15% or 8 to 15% depending on what province you're in. And it's like, dude, let's just like just one tax, like, and you can even make an argument for like let's scrap that if we can. Like, can't we do the tariff thing? If that apparently works so well, can't we just do that more and like tax our own people less? Like, as a country, isn't there any way that we could just generate wealth as opposed to just taxing everybody all the time or whatever we do? Like, what's the tax that the average Canadian has to pay? It's probably a lot. Anyway, as you can see, I'm very professionally prepared. Anyway, COVID policy, a rational approach that respects our rights and freedoms. Simple. This might actually be the same, like, site page, landing page stuff or platform thing from COVID, because this doesn't make as much sense to have now just because that's kind of in the past. But regardless, you could, if you were curious of how they stood on the issue before, you can kind of go back and maybe possibly see what I don't know if they've changed it since then. So anyway, with all that said, it's worth bringing this up. Like you could argue it's worth talking about PPC. I know I spent like a good chunk of time on that, but it's like know what the options are. It's kind of a good way to say it, because if we do have an election, we need to be open to the idea that maybe Poilievre is not quite what we thought he was. If that is true, then he should answer for that, hopefully change his stance or leanings to be more just not globalist, pro-Canadian, Canada first. Let's make Canada great again, you know what I mean? And you could actually use that even probably more so for Canada than for US, because in Canada, I think you could argue in a shorter span of time, it's become less great, I think is fair to say. And again, you don't even have to get into any of these other nuanced issues, because people might immediately go to like, oh, you're just, talking about immigration and all this other stuff. And it's like, even that aside, just like, can we make life less expensive all around? Can we make housing more affordable? Can we tax people less? Can we stop, with all this nonsense? Can we like stop with censoring and taking the guns and all that stuff? All the every so often, however often we do it. Can we stop? So it's like you don't even have to talk about immigration stuff. You can make arguments for immigration too, in terms of like what are our policies on that and how. Does it work or does it not work? Are we doing too much, etc.? Like, there's arguments to be made there. Like, let's have the conversation. But like, because I think right now, again, based on that video that I'm not sure if I found it or not, I think that Canada, I don't know if Canada's the first country to do this. I think if what the video was saying is true, is that for maybe the first time in Canadian history that we're having a growth in population, but a lowering in GDP. And apparently that never happens. I could be wrong, but I think apparently that never happens, where normally you'd have a growth in population as a result of growth in GDP. Because like the more people, I guess the more producing a country would have, and as a result the GDP would go up, I assume. That's my like amateur guess at economic stuff. So if that's not happening, why is that? So is the immigration thing mixed with other stuff a part of that? Because, like, what's the level to which we're, immigrating people? And if we have a housing issue, are we bringing in more people than we can adequately house at a reasonable rate? These are all good questions to have. Can we look at this more and fix this? Do we need to put more of a, not necessarily a complete pause in immigration, but do we need to just, like, taper it down a lot? Like, just, we can be reasonable about this and, just, like, let's find a solution. Anyway, listen to what this guy has to say. You see the name. Anyway.
Good morning, everybody. It's Mr. Freedom here today, and I went and seen Pierre last night at Shoeless Joe's. He did his speech, was basically telling you everything you want to hear. I did sign up for the Conservative Party subscription, which they didn't take cash, funny enough, and I offered to pay cash. No one would take my cash, so he said he's against digital currency, which clearly, from my experience, right there and then he wasn't. So, first lie already. And then I had enough intuition to go look up even further online about Pierre. So you can look him up. It's called the Wayback Machine. This is, I'll show you the HTTPS there. So he was on the World Economic Forum on April 1st, 4:45. They posted his name on the World Economic Forum. It has now been removed. So every politician right now, they were in Ottawa. They didn't stand up for our rights. They let us be trampled by horses, pepper sprayed. What politician is going to stand up for the Bill of Rights and make people accountable for what they've done wrong? I want punishable by law. This law is the most highest law in the country, and it's set on by every politician. So, Pierre, I'm going to ask you, are you part of the WF or not? You didn't answer that question last night. You kept your mouth shut about it. So everybody wants to know, and I can show you right here, you are. So look it up for yourself. Do not trust any politician. If we want to change our country, us Canadians have to stick together as the people, and we are the people. Freedom!
So, with that said, where are we at? You know what I mean? Like, what's the path forward? Because if this guy is right, then, we should be having some caution towards Poilievre, Because, like, to be honest, I want him to be the guy. I want him to be the guy for Canada that's going to do good stuff. You know what I mean? I want... One second. I'm going to look up the... I want him to get in and do a good job. But if he is what we may fear that he is, right? Then is he the right guy for the job? Because... Oh, dude. That's a rough go. Well, to be fair, kind of everybody had a rough go, but... Anyway. So, or so it seems anyway. So, what are we supposed to be doing? And who is the best choice for our country if we do indeed have to vote? Because, like, Pierre's got popularity, it seems. Now, to what degree it is organic, you could ask that question, but I think that it's probably, at least in the beginning, was probably mostly organic, right? And he's got... Like, he had people in his corner. I believe that to a degree he still does. I think for the most part he probably still does. And he seems to be, like, a considerable challenge to, like, the Liberal NDP groups, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like, even like if we do have to go and vote, I would probably like something more close to a Maxime Bernier, but I don't know that he would win in terms of getting enough votes, right? Or enough seats, whatever, as we read up earlier. So, do you take Pierre because out of the three main groups, he might be like the best of those choices, right? And what would ideally be the best scenario is if he comes out, makes a statement, is like, hey, I just want to address all these questions about the WEF and all these other things. If he's already done that and I just am out of the loop on that, then good. Because I thought I heard from a friend of mine that, like, when Pierre kind of made his first kind of statement on YouTube, that I thought that he, like, from what my friend was telling me at the time, he made it sound like he did come out against the WEF and everything, or showing that he was anti-WEF from the very beginning. So, if that's the case, did anything change? So I'm going to go to the YouTube channel real quick. Oh, that audio's coming through. So if I just go to here, and I go to videos, because I don't know when he made his channel. Oh, wow. So we made this account in 2011, regardless of when did he start posting, I don't know. But, so, it would be interesting to watch this. I haven't watched this. It might be interesting to watch it just to kind of see where he's at. The only thing is I don't know how many videos to look through here. So I would kind of go back to his, I'm just going to go full screen while that scrolls here. It'd be interesting to go back to his very early on stuff, or it might be interesting to go back to his very early on stuff and see, like, okay, when you first came on the scene, if my friend was accurate in saying that you are anti-WEF, where are you at now? Has any of that changed? Have you changed? Are you compromised? Are you not compromised? You know, if you're not compromised, please come out and tell us and give receipts on why you're not compromised. Like, just because he was on the WF website doesn't mean that he's pro-WEF now. But if that was taken off the website, why? If that was taken off the website, why was that? Is it because he realized it was not good and he got out of it, and so then they took him off? Or was it because he's like, hey man, you need to, like, cover this up? Like, you know, what's the reason? Because the reason is probably going to make or break how trustworthy he is, right? So we should probably know what all of that is about. So it would be kind of easy if he is a good guy, and if he is, like, Canada first for the people. It'd be pretty easy. He just needs to come out and say, hey guys, this is what's up with all that stuff. I'm not with the WEF. I'm not about that life. You know what I mean? But is he going to do that? We may see. We may see. There's quite a bit of videos. It's still scrolling. I'm 4 years ago now. I don't know, because even then I don't know when he came on the scene in terms of yeah, there's stuff from like 6 years ago, so this is even like pre-COVID. So he might have been on the scene actually for a while. The only thing is it's like, I don't know which video that was then. Yeah, there's even stuff from 8 years ago. Okay, what if I just look up on his channel, WEF? Okay, let's just go to this video here, where it's from Pierre Poilievre's YouTube channel, and it's "You'll own nothing and be happy." Okay, because that's the only thing, actually, when I look up WEF, that's the only thing that comes up that's from roughly kind of more COVID-ish times. 3 years ago would be just when 2025, so this probably came out in like 2021 or 2022, something like that. That's like my rough math estimate. I could be wrong about that. And all the other stuff here, like this is 2 years ago, 1 month ago, 3 weeks ago, 1 year ago, 4 years ago. Stop the Socialist Reset. Oh, that might be good to watch as well. Okay, anyway, let's watch this.
I want to thank my colleague from Carleton for all his...
We're going to see if he says anything against the WEF. And then if he does, then we're going to have to see, is what was on the website there different than what it may seem?
Optimism and his 5 points. I come from Oshawa, where it's a big manufacturing background, and I've been hearing about the Liberals shutting down our manufacturing sector, our softwood lumber sector, our mining sector, and he knows, of course, Mr. Carney wants to promote Russian pipelines and block Canadian pipelines. So could he please explain to Canadian youth who are looking for a good future how modern monetary theory is going to help them get those jobs of the future, and how by 2030, when they own nothing, they'll be really happy?
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, this is some great questions. First of all, modern MMT, they call it, modern monetary theory. MMT can also stand for more money today, or magic money tree. It's this new theory where governments will just simply print cash the central bank prints the cash, sends it over in a Brinks truck every day to the Prime Minister's office, and he just starts throwing the money around. Well, what we have now is a little bit different. To start with, we don't have a direct sale of the debt to the bank. It first gets funneled through the financial sector in Canada so that they can take a piece and take a cut and get even richer before that newly printed cash trickles down to the people on the bottom. But the bottom line is that what we have today is very similar to MMT. It is printing mass sums of cash that inflates the assets of the rich and raises the consumer prices of the poor. That is a massive new inflation tax that will only help big government, big business, and the super rich at the expense of the working class. That's why we're speaking out against it. As for Mr. Carney, you're right, he's part of the World Economic Forum that the finance minister joins, which says that in 2030, only 9 years from now, you will own nothing and you will love it. That is the agenda of these people. Maybe that's why over the last year they've done everything in their power to make housing completely unaffordable so that nobody can afford it except them, a small group of landed aristocrats, while the common people are out in the field doing the work. We on this side want to democratize property ownership, make it available to everybody.
So that sounded pretty good. You know, correct me if I'm wrong. So, and one thing that kind of strikes me is I think that was from 2021, and I didn't see anybody wearing masks because Canada was like really big on the mask stuff during that time. So I don't really know. Maybe that was, I don't know. It's like so much happened during that time because there was like, okay, we're going to this, depending on the area of Canada, you're at this level of emergency or whatever they called it. I don't think they said level of emergency, but you're at this stage or whatever. So, and based on the case amounts or the amount of COVID cases, whatever. And then so like things were kind of changing on and off, and then there might have been some times where it's like, man, we're just kind of stuck in this phase. And anyway, so kind of surprising that everybody just looked kind of normal here. Here is, as Prime Minister, I will ban ministers' involvement in the World Economic Forum. So this is from 2 years ago.
And that is why I've made it clear that my ministers in my government will be banned from participating in the World Economic Forum when I'm in government. Work for Canada. If you want to go to Davos to the conference, make it a one-way ticket. But you can't be part of our government and working for a policy agenda that is against the interests of our people.
Okay.
Oh, one
little
last
tingles
thing.
there.
If you want me to take on Trudeau and beat him in the next election, I first have to become a Conservative leader, which means you need to get a party membership now and vote. Click the link above, get your membership, take back control of your life.
So what I will say is, with that sounds pretty good, and it would be kind of hard to think that he is with the WEF if he's talking like that. So unless you kind of have to there's a couple different ways you could go with this. You could either say that he was telling the truth then, but is now compromised all of a sudden in the last recent history or whatever, or you would have to probably say or guess or assume or whatever, make the argument that he was lying the whole time. I don't know what the truth is about that. It may become clear as we move forward, but just based on those two videos, he at the very least doesn't seem very warm to the World Economic Forum. Hopefully that is the case. So there's another video here called Stop the Socialist Reset.
I sometimes wonder if the government's not just covering up the WE scandal here with this endless filibuster, but they also don't want any scrutiny of this grand reset the Prime Minister is now talking about. This idea that...
So as far as I understand, he's talking about the Great Reset, which I believe was something put forward by the World Economic Forum.
He's going to renovate Canadian society to fit his Trudeaupian ambitions. This is not a time to re-engineer society to his liking or to his socialist ideology. This is a time to get people safely and securely back to work to protect their lives and their livelihoods, not a time for government to take advantage of the crisis in order to massively expand its powers at the expense of Canadians' freedom. That's what we should be talking about here in the Finance Committee. We should just be standing up against government power grabs like this grand reset the Prime Minister is discussing. But I'm beginning to wonder if this filibuster is about more than just covering up the WE scandal, but also about covering up the government's grand schemes for social and economic engineering to cover up the power grab that he has lusted over since the beginning of this crisis. So frankly, we've lost patience. We want an answer. We want to get on with the job.
So real quick, we're just going to analyze the background a little bit here, try to find a bit of a better frame of his face. So he's got some Shakespeare something or other. Quotations, whatever that's about. I think in one of these videos that he did, there was a copy of 1984 in the background. One thing that, I don't know what this little statue is here, I'm not sure. One thing that did stand out is he has an Israel flag. So, and he had an Israel flag up in his book cabinet, as far as I understand, even before all the stuff that's started happening right now. So he had this before a lot of the Israel virtue signaling might have started to happen, because even back in 4 years ago, which would have been like 2020, end of 2020, well, I don't know the exact date 4 years ago, because was it January 2020? Was it December 2020? Anyway, it would seem that at that point, I don't know that, like, because there was this really short blip of a period of time, I think in 2022 or 2021, or maybe even in 2020, where Hamas launched some rockets at Israel, and the Iron Dome took them out, and there was a bit of a bubbling there briefly, like some sort of, like, tension or whatever militarily, and it only lasted for, I think, a month, maybe less, maybe it was 2 weeks, I can't remember. But do you guys remember that? There was like a brief thing between Israel and Gaza, or Israel and Hamas, or Israel Palestine, whatever, like a brief thing for a short period of time, and then it just kind of went away. And then now we had, like, the October 7th stuff and all that stuff, and now it's been like ongoing for like over a year, right? So I don't know if this flag has anything to do with any of that stuff, or if that's just always been there, but that may also kind of show you where his allegiances lie when it comes to that issue. Now, like the issue of Israel, Palestine, etc., and potential foreign policy. So anyway, moving on from that, with those videos, it's, it makes me a bit less hesitant that this is something to be extremely worried about, but it still is something that you should consider. And it's something that, if Pierre has spoken out in the past like that towards the World Economic Forum or whatever, or even like socialist policy, Great Reset, whatever kind of stuff, whatever you want to call it, then it shouldn't really be too hard for him to do it again. So just do it again. Like, Pierre, if you want to, like, reassure confidence, talk like that again. And people will probably be like, okay. And then, like, obviously, like, have some receipts or have some, like, something else as evidence or proof to support what you're saying, so it's not just like a lip service potentially, but like a legit thing that people can kind of like say, okay, this is legit or whatever, this is, like, proper or whatever. So with that, I keep saying so too much. Anyway, beyond that, the last clip I'll go to is this came out today as well. Or yes, well, it's technically January 7th now because it's 12:33 a.m., but I digress. So, from Valuetainment Media, Justin, after President Trump's triumph is announced by Kamala Harris, Congress explodes in cheers and joy. So this is what's going on across the border.
This announcement of...
Okay, 1 second.
This announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected President and Vice President of the United States, each for a term beginning on the 20th day of January 2025, and shall be entered together with the list of the votes on the journals of the House and the Senate. Thank you very much. The purpose of the joint Senate having been concluded pursuant to Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 2, the 119th Congress, the chair declares this joint session dissolved. Thank you.
So, I think they might have oversold it a little bit because explodes in cheers and joy. I don't know if it was an explosion of cheers and joy, but there was applause, right? So one thing that's maybe also worth noting is that was one of the better talking sessions that Kamala has done. Because I haven't watched all the talking sessions that she's done, so I could be wrong about this, but it seems like on average, when she has to do public speaking stuff, it doesn't always go super well. So that was pretty professional. So anyway,
This announcement.
so what else is going on?
Just remember
here we
after
go.
January.
Here we go. Yeah, because it was January 6th, technically yesterday now. Oh, don't even get me started. I'll get to that in a second.
I think we need to find moral clarity, in this country. And I just remember after January 6th, you had someone like Mitch McConnell placing the blame on January 6th where it belonged, squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. And then you started seeing people backtrack that and losing their moral center. You had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history.
One of the worst?
And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my
We need to never forget because past becomes prologue if you forget any race. I think we need to find
if you forget any race.
Any race.
What?
If you forget any race.
Maybe there was more context after, but the clip got ended. But okay, here's the thing. So, as far as I understand, the only person who died on January 6th was Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by, I think, it was, I don't know if it was Capitol Security or if it was Secret Service or if it was a federal agent or something, but some dude with a pistol who was, I think, wearing a suit. I don't know what his title was, but it was somebody who I think was I assume charged with protecting the government officials in that building or something. I could be wrong about these details, but the only person killed was a protester named Ashley Babbitt, as far as I understand. Because I think, at some point, I think Tim Pool talked about this, where he said that the whole thing about the whole thing about a police officer being beaten to death with a fire extinguisher is apparently fake news. So Tim Pool, J6 fake news. True, is that fake news? I'm not sure if I'm going to find it, but I think Tim Pool talked about how there was a New York Times, I think, or maybe Washington Post, but I think it was New York Times story that I think was talking about the killing of a police officer by 2 protesters with a fire extinguisher. As far as I understand, that never happened. The only deaths of police officers occurred after January 6th. I think one was the same week and one might have been the next week or like somewhere between 5 to 11 days or something like that after the fact. And I think both deaths were either suicides or something of that nature, whether it was like a physical health altercation or self-induced in the case of suicide. So as far as I understand, no police officers or anybody else was killed at the Capitol on the day of January 6th other than Ashley Babbitt, who as far as I understand was a protester. So if you're going to have these people that are going to say these kinds of things and compare it to the Holocaust, chattel slavery, or World War II, what are we talking about? Also, Whoopi kind of bums me out because, like, if you go back and you watch Star Trek Next Generation, and you just watch her on there, it's like, Whoopi, how did you think back then? And how'd you get here? How'd you get to this point? Why'd you have to get to this point? Why'd you have to go there? Why'd you have to do that? Couldn't you have just stayed probably, I assume, a cooler individual that was, like, probably more chill in the 90s when probably most people were, cooler and more chill, like, because, like, does it have to be like this? Whoopi, does it have to be like this? Does it have to be like this? Okay, so Donald Trump here saying, would you support Canada becoming the 51st U.S. state? A, yes, B, no. Kind of surprised he didn't just do a poll on this. So, okay, I have to say no. So there's so you got mixed reviews, but you got some people saying yes. You got I have to say no. I think it would be the worst thing ever to happen to the USA. Oh, dude. Adding effectively 40 million Dems to one go. At one go. Okay. Not all of us would be Democrat or Democrat leaning. So I'm not going to read the rest of what they said, but feel free. I will full screen it and you can read this. Or actually, maybe I'll just read it. It's not that long. Adding effectively 40 million Dems at one go because honestly, I don't think we know how to be proper conservatives anymore. Don't be fooled. I think you'd have trouble finding any significant percentage to the right of Bernie Sanders and can't imagine it would do you any good. Okay. So, are they right? Hopefully they're not correct in thinking that we would all be Democrats, but anyway, moving on. I think that Kevin O'Leary probably has the best middle ground proposition on this, where he either went to Mar-a-Lago or was planning to go to Mar-a-Lago to negotiate like a new agreement. So Kevin O'Leary, U.S.-Canada Union. Kevin O'Leary, Canada's leadership is collapsing. Kevin O'Leary. Canada-U.S. economic plan negotiation. Is this the one?
Good friend Kevin O'Leary, who joins us this morning. Kevin, we understand you're headed to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President-elect Trump. You have said you want to broker a deal that will create an economic union between the U.S. and Canada. Is that right?
Yes, there's no reason to be fighting. We've been talking about this for decades, and I think the time is right. What I did, and I've been doing this now for about 48 hours, and I'm getting a lot of feedback from the Canadian public. I enjoy a very large social media following there. So I said to them, look, what deal do you want? And they definitely don't want to give up their sovereignty, but they really want to explore this idea of an economic union, because Canada, but you think about
I was making that face because of this.
People size of California, unlimited resources, unlimited power, unlimited gas, unlimited water, unlimited lumber, unlimited everything.
Yeah. And technically, it's not unlimited everything, but I think maybe the heart of what Kevin's saying here, Mr. O'Leary, if you want to say it that way, is saying here, is that we got a lot of resources, I think.
And they're not stupid. They're thinking, wait a second, what if we had free trade east, west, north, south? And that we put all our resources in, instead of squabbling on our own border between Canada and the United States, and put all that money up into protecting ourselves against the Chinese and the Russians up north. That all makes sense to Canadians. They just don't want to give up their sovereignty, just like somebody born in Louisiana doesn't want to be born somewhere else. They want to say, look, I was born in Calgary, whatever. But the way to solve for that is a passport, no different than the EU. Any American get it, any Canadian can get it, get the background check. They're starting to like that idea a lot more than the idea of selling out the whole country.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what kind of headway you can make with the president-elect. I feel like he would be open to something like that.
I think he's a great negotiator, and he throws out these outlandish ideas, and then what falls through the cracks is the winning stuff.
So essentially, feel free. So this came out 7 days ago. Feel free to watch the whole thing, right? So, and it's got almost 500,000 views. Came out 7 days ago. So with that said, I think that that's maybe so far potentially one of the best plans that there may be at this whole Canada-US thing, because depending on when you talk to me, I'm at varying degrees percentage-wise of willing to entertain the idea of becoming the 51st state. But what Kevin is saying here is very interesting, if it's accurate and if it can be done and if it does what I hope it would do. If it so first of all, if it allows benefits, great. If it allows more ease of access for Canadians to the US, even better. So, like, if it makes it a little bit easier to do cross-border travel, great. My big thing is I want it to be able to make it way easier or not even necessary to get a work visa. Now, at the same time, I don't know how that works, because I don't know if a kind of trade union passport or whatever it was that he was describing, if you hold, say they do that system, if I were to get one, would I be legally allowed to just go work in the US without getting a work visa? Or would I have to still get a work visa? Would that passport make it easier to get one? Those are, and that being specifically applying only to Canada, US, not to anywhere else, not to any other country, just Canada, US, if we had that kind of deal. Because if it did allow for that, like, dude, you got me right there. I'm like sold on it in the sense of thinking that that's like a solid agreement, right? Because I would like to have as much of an easier time as possible in being able to get to work in the US if that's what I want to do / I'm called to do, etc., right? I want to be able to have that option, and that option ideally as easily as possible. So if a sort of trade union passport, whatever, makes that more possible, you would probably have my vote there, as long as there isn't any other significant downsides that would outweigh that. And I also like the idea of being able to still kind of keep some Canadian sovereignty. My kind of maybe ultimate goal in this whole conversation with Canada US would just being able to become a dual citizen, but that's a bit of a process that I assume it's a bit of a process, and I don't know enough about that process. So this interesting idea. Beyond that, I think that I don't know that there's anything else I'm going to go over today. Anything else in the timeline here? That might be it. In terms of the stuff of, like, I don't know that I have a whole lot of other stuff really pertinent to say right now about the whole Trudeau thing and everything else and stuff. Essentially, where do we go from here? Will we have an election? What will happen? How will that work? What's going on? I don't know enough about it. Hopefully, to maybe try to answer the question. I think the question that I had, I don't even know if I remember what I titled this now, other than Trudeau resigns or something like that, question mark, exclamation mark, whatever. I think what I might have said after is, will Canada be free or be more free or something like that now? Does Trudeau resigning spell, or does Trudeau resigning mean that Canada's going to get better? Hopefully. You know what I mean? In general, with whatever happens, shouldn't Canadians just want Canada to get better? So, hopefully for all our sakes, that happens. How that will happen, I don't know. We gonna see, maybe. Okay, I'm gonna end off with this here, just to end on a Christian note from Trad West. I like Bishop Murray too. So, Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. John 14:6. Why do Christians get attacked? Just listen. All right, let's listen.
Satan will not attack Muhammad because he won him long time ago. Satan will not go after Buddha because he won him long ago. Satan will not go after Krishna because he won him and the 300 million gods long ago. Satan was overcome by one and was crushed on Calvary. His name is Jesus. And everyone who professes and confesses Jesus Christ will be attacked. Do not be afraid. Satan.
There you go. So, thank you all for watching. Till next time. And also, this has been the Daily Vent. And as always,